Hi, designers. I'm Anna from V.Mora, where we help launch fashion designers, large and small, source fabrics, develop a product, and find manufacturing, whether it's domestic or offshore. And we have put together today's talk. I was talking with Jay. We'll introduce him in a second. And I was like, listen, let me record this. Everyone needs to know this information. And he jumped on the call with me, and here we are. Jay, please tell me who you are, how you work with designers.
Right.
And
I'm,
yeah,
I'm Jay Arbitman. I have a company called the Sourcing District. I'm basically a sales agent for about 10 different fabric suppliers and suppliers of garment construction necessities
and where do those supplies come from?
everywhere.
Yeah,
Um, About 85% of the fabric that you see when you walk into a store is originating in China. And so a lot of the fabric I sell originates from there because that's what's in the marketplace.
right.
Um, and some of the best and most sophisticated fabrics come from China, and then some things that are, but a lot of different things come from China. I also have fabrics that come from Taiwan, South Korea, one fabric from Australia, and some from the United States. And
Right.
then supplies that, again, I think some of the interfacing, a lot of things either come out of South Korea, Taiwan, or China.
Got it. So that's why I thought it was so great to bring you on because you can compare prices to domestic versus offshore. And then also, you are aware of the current limitations that we have in the US because the first thing I hear with the tariffs is like, well, yeah, we'll make it here. Tell me what that would look like. And tell me
I
what
know
the
this is
capabilities currently are.
So I know this has
Yes.
happened to you, and it's happened to me, where people say, "Well, can't we just make fabric in the United States?"
Yes.
And so we do. We have some okay knits. Knits are all right in the United States. You can get knitted fabric. You can get jersey and rib and ponte de Roma and fleece and French terry that are they're okay, and some of it's better than okay. It's really good, and some of it not so good. So there is a market for knitting, but woven fabrics, there's very, very little made in the United States.
So
So
make it here.
a dress shirt for a man, and any kind of worsted wool,
Hmm.
any kind of worsted wool blend, none of that's made in the United States at all. Very, very few buttons are made in the United States. You have Waterford Buttons that makes metal buttons for the military, and you
Like,
have one other niche type of thing that's mostly got a military application, a button that's made. But there are no other like fashion buttons. They are not made in the United States at all. Interfacing, not made in the United States at all. So it would be very difficult to make a garment where all the components are made in the United States, and putting all those things together would take a tremendous amount of money. And we don't really have the production here. Now, you and I have been making goods in the United States for, the last 20 years.
correct.
And some of the production is really great. But when you get up into big numbers, it's much more difficult to do that in the United States.
Now tell me, I mean I know why, but tell the viewers why we can't just make wovens here. Just make them here.
Yeah.
Because that's
Yeah.
what the tariffs are said to do, to be forcing us to make things stateside, right? So talk a little bit about why we're not and why it's going to be difficult, if not impossible, to do.
Because the manufacturing isn't here, so the demand isn't here. So I was, sadly, I was in the business 50 years ago, and 50 years ago, everything was here.
Yeah.
All the production was here.
Yes.
So the supply chain was here because we made a tremendous percentage of even the world's we a lot of things got exported. We were a tremendous center of manufacturing and made, any kind of wool, any kind of cotton, just all kinds of things were made here. Um, and that is not the case. And today we only make less than 1% of the world's clothing. And
what you're saying is if even if we figured out a way to make the fabrics here, because the
Sell them to.
manufacturing isn't here,
Who would you sell them to?
right?
And so, and at the same time, even working against us even more is not sure where you'd get really trained people to run a textile mill. Maybe some people in the Carolinas know what they're doing and have some experience from 10 or 20 years
Right.
ago. There are probably a few people around. Um, but
That was the thing too, is like even if we had the equipment, there's not where are we going to get the people, the
yeah,
skilled people to
yeah.
run machineries that know how to work?
So there are things that can be done here, but they're more like boutique mills.
Yeah.
I represent a guy who weaves in Pennsylvania, but the things are two or three times more expensive than what you would pay for something you could really develop into some mass production. And it
Yeah.
makes a great product, and people do buy it. But um, uh, so when you go to dye your fabric, the chemicals all come from overseas. So now you have to build some place to do that. You, if you make a garment, somebody'd have to make the interfacing, which is
Right.
probably, on 30% of the garments that are made, maybe more, have some kind of interface.
I'd say probably more, but
Yeah, maybe. And none of that stuff is made here at all.
yeah.
And so if you were to rebuild the business, it would take a long time and it would take expertise that I'm not sure exists in this country.
How long?
10 years.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Yeah, I think it's a decade. You could say we're going to go at it for a decade,
Yeah.
but the amount of money and the investment, it's not a good investment because you already have the we have access to the most sophisticated markets in Italy and in China and in
Right.
Vietnam or wherever those things are. Japan has a 24% tariff. I thought they were on our side.
Yeah.
So it really is going to hurt a lot of businesses, and making woven fabrics in a big way domestically ain't happening.
So these are my questions. We will get into solution at the end because I always want to stay solution based. So for right now, what does this mean for the small independent designers?
Well, I think we're going to get to that in the solution part.
Okay.
But for right now, there is a layer of inventory in the United States on many things, and there are good suppliers, folks that I rep, and other people
Yep.
that have pretty good inventories. And so far, everybody that I work with is not raising the price on their inventory. So if you want to buy, so I had a customer that I'll tell you kind of a real time story.
Yeah.
This morning, a customer sent in an order for about 1,000 yards of a polycotton broadcloth from Oriole Textiles. And Oriole sent back, thank you very much. We'll ship it tomorrow. However, we can't guarantee the price in the future and so on and so forth.
Right.
And she wrote back and says, hold my order. I'm going to increase it. And I'm going to buy. She's going to anticipate. So there's some of that going on now, Anna. There are some people who are saying, well, maybe I should take an extra roll of that or something, and we're just starting to see that, so that may be appropriate for some people, and I like the idea, and I've discussed it with you. There's a ton of dead stock. There is a huge layer of inventory in the United States.
And explain what Zed stock is.
It's already here, and some of it's really well priced, and all that's So I think that's the way you.
But
But I don't know.
even more for the people that have no idea what dead stock is, what is the definition of dead stock?
Dead stock, by definition, is fabric that does not sell within the normal sales cycles. So we went out, we sold it, it didn't sell. We put it on our regular clearance. It was a 40% off, didn't sell at that price. we went to our big guys, we tried to liquidate it, nothing happened, and now we have this fabric and we don't know where to go with it.
Well, I thought it was also, we ordered a bunch of fabric, we had leftover, and we didn't end up using it for production.
That all of that stuff.
Yeah. So
That's all dead stuff.
it's fabric that has already been ordered for one purpose or another,
Right.
and it didn't get put towards that purpose, and now we have X amount of yards.
Right.
So had nowhere to go.
A lot of things that are in LA,
Yeah.
for example, I think that's the best. I think at some point, the Marshalls and TJ Maxx type of people, Ross stores, were doing a lot of sewing in LA, and then that all stopped at once. Now, I don't know the reasons for it. I'm not, I'm not on the ground floor there, but there was a layer of inventory that those people were using, these mass merchandisers were using.
Yeah.
And the importers got left holding the bag. And so I've been selling this 10 cell twill, that a guy's got in LA. And I've sold it now a few times. And he just said, well, I'm down to 1,400 yards. That stock used to be somebody would have a couple hundred yards that didn't get cut up, So there's some boxcar numbers. And so some of the disadvantages of dead stock, in some cases, may not be disadvantage. You may be able to reorder it, I think is what I'm saying.
Got it. Great. And tell us how is this going to affect the larger brands, the bigger brands, the Lululemons, the TJ Maxxes, the Levi's, all of the big brands.
Right. Well, they're going to put a tremendous amount of emphasis on the European business and on their Asian business, and on businesses where this isn't going on.
Okay.
So,
So you're saying to the consumers, they're going to be looking to sell in other countries versus.
They know they're going to lose a section of their business in the United States.
Yeah.
So they're going to make that up by doing more business in Canada, doing more business in Mexico, doing more business in Brazil and in other, Argentina, other developed countries. They're going to be more emphasis on that. There has just been or they're working on a Japan, China, South Korea, like duty free, like a NAFTA for South Korea, Japan, and China. Those guys are thinking ahead, and they realize that we're going to be weakened, and they're going to step on our throat now, quite frankly.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Another interesting tidbit you had, a fabric in, I think you said it was a 10 cell. Tell me about it. It was $6.90.
So there is a bamboo cotton spandex jersey that I sold. It was my number one fabric for years and years and years and years and years.
I remember.
And you used it, and everybody else in the world did too. It comes in 70 colors. It's wide. It's really well priced. It's got a really nice hand to it. Seemed to have a little bit of magic there. And it was before 2018. It was $6.90 a yard.
Okay.
And then the first 25% tariffs came in, and it went up to about $8.50, and it still was a really good fabric at $8.50.
Right.
And but since then, since that 25% in this,
which is still in effect. So some people think that
no, you're just putting one number on top of it.
Exactly. So we are still actively having a 25% tariff that was put on in
2018.
2020.
So 2018, you had 25%. Now we've put on two 10% additions.
Yeah.
And starting tonight at midnight or tomorrow night at midnight, one of those things, you're looking, I believe it's at 12:01 Eastern time today.
Okay.
Or tomorrow, but you'll be
tonight.
Yes. You're then an additional 34% goes on goods that originate in China.
Those are going to be 34 plus the 10 plus the 10 plus the 25 from a few years back.
Right. So
we're looking at 54%, right?
Yeah, big number. And well, it's 54. It's a big number. Now, there always have been some tariffs and duties. Some of that money supported customs, supported getting the goods into the
Yeah.
country. Part of that was, we're gonna do some kind of a statistical audit to make sure that there's nothing unsavory in the shipment, something illegal or something that's not stated properly on the manifest. And
Organization for what comes into the country. We need it, you
yeah,
know? Yeah.
absolutely. And so we had that inspection. That was good.
Yeah.
Once in a while, you'd be the person that got inspected, and your shipment would be 10 days late. It was sad, but it was kind of a reality.
Yeah.
Um, um, but since that time, we've added on a tremendous cost. Now, a tariff, just so everybody is clear about it,
Thank you.
is by law paid by the importer. So if I'm the sourcing district textile company and I order 1,000 yards of poplin from China for $2 a yard, so I'm getting $2,000. Now that's going to cost me 2,000 plus like 74% or something. It's a big number.
And it's going to cost you that, not who's selling the pop.
You actually pay the mill the $2, and
Yeah.
you pay a freight bill,
Yeah.
and then you actually write a check to the Treasury of the United States.
So you, Jay, in Chicago, is paying that, not the mill in China.
No. Now, so I think you're really, in the case of China and to a lesser extent Vietnam, these are not tariffs. These are stop valves. And so that's part of, I think as we look forward in the business, got to say, hey, for at least a few months, a couple of years, the near future, we're not going to have certain suppliers. We're not going to have access to certain types of things. And you're going to have to think about, let's say you're buying interfacing. It might not be the worst idea to pick up a few months supply or a year's supply. Something that you're going to use, something that absolutely you're going to use. Because once that supplier runs out of interfacing and they go to reorder it, the price is gonna go up substantially.
Right. Right. All right. So the fabric went from $6.90 to now about.
They have not released the new price list. My guess is the fabric will be in the $14 to $15 area.
And that's the same fabric, just from 2018 to now with the additional tariffs.
Yes. And so I want to point out one other thing. When people talk about inflation,
yes.
Hello. This is going to be everything else. First of all, for those of us that are familiar with the kitchen and the grocery store,
right?
This is going to be. You're going to go to the store. Things are going to start getting priced a little bit different.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And the probably one of the groups that gets even worse than the apparel business are farmers. Because a tremendous amount of what they do gets exported, and now that they may be cut off from that, and that will be kind of an economic disaster.
Yeah. Solutions.
Well, if you're making product right now, I think you have to look towards what's available. I don't think you can dream about, and in some cases. If you think of kind of even if you've got the wherewithal to do all of this, if you think of, we used to go like somebody would say, I'd like a micro modal fabric that's 260, GSM. And here are the colors. I have black and I have this French blue color that's very nice. I'd like to be, and you would be able to execute that. Whatever the dye lots are, you'd be able to execute that.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's going to be a good way to think about things anymore.
Right.
I mean, maybe it works out, and there may be some domestic capacity for that. But as far as like with one of the lines I represent, Kendor, when you wanted a custom color in a lot of their knits, the minimum was 300 yards. That's really reasonable. In the United States, most of the time, dye lots look like 600 to 1400 yards.
Right. So what you're saying is the first solution is to design around what's readily available
Yeah.
instead
Use
of
what, right.
customizing or coming up with an idea before you know if it's doable.
Yeah,
So
I think
designing around what's readily available,
right.
pulling in those dead stocks.
Yeah, I think available fabric has to be your springboard right
Yeah,
now because really, I think it's the only thing you can do.
right.
I'm not sure there's I don't I just now you can buy stuff out of China and pay 2.5 times more than you paid, a few years ago. Maybe that works for some people. So I can't imagine that there's no situation with it. But for most of us, that is not going to be a solution.
Yeah. So what I'm reminding my clients is if you're starting out and newer to the game or having, you're in the beginning stages, you're actually at an advantage to the people that have been doing this a long time because let's say you've hit the market, your customer knows you at this price, that's what they want to see that garment at. And if you have to come and raise that price, the it's going to upset the customers that are used to the price they've been seeing. So in some perspective, like being new, you actually have an advantage. You're not working backwards from these prices. You're working as you go, building them in to make sure that they work and that you're entering the market at a proper price point. So
There's
I feel like it is easier
something to be said for all that.
for the smaller designers, the newer brands to work out this issue than it is for the bigger brands or the brands that have been established many years at a certain price point.
You know,
I like
people
that.
are not going to want to buy from, let's say, I don't know who the low end suppliers are necessarily, but that people are going to when you're going to go and let's say you've been selling a jean for $14, which would be a price that exists for certain. And now you're going to go back to that same customer and you're going to say, this is $20 now.
Yeah. So
Um,
that's the other thing that I thought about too is if you have a product that's solely driven by price, your customer buys you for the price.
you're in deep doo doo.
That product no longer exists.
You're
Right.
in deep doo doo
So
with that. Yep.
if you're known for quality, if you're an independent designer, if you've got unique designs, uh, the customer will still come to you because they're not coming to you because you have a cheap product or a cheaply priced product. They're coming to you for those other aspects. But for the designer or for the brands that are just about being cheap, like they're no longer going to be cheap.
Yep.
Therefore, what do they have?
So, one of it's kind of interesting. Uh, also, that this is going to probably have some kind of a contraction in the economy
Mhm.
or some slowdown in the economy. So you're also going to be trying to attract fewer dollars. And that is a challenging part of it. But you're right. It's almost advantageous to either be a new person or to start in a new category
Yeah.
or because you're going to have to work. I don't think there's going to be an alternative rather than to work with what's available. Maybe there's going to be a way around this, and certain things will work coming out of the fabric producing countries. But
Yeah.
as of now, I don't. I guess I don't see it.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. But being an entrepreneur, the successful entrepreneurs, have to pivot. We have to figure out,
That's
we
right.
have problems come to the table and we have to pivot and we have to rise above it and figure out solutions. Always. Like
Right.
we had COVID and now we have tariffs and we're at least with COVID and tariffs, it's like we're all collectively going through it.
Right.
Whereas like all the other issues I've had in my business or you've had in yours, like you're the only one, like we're all going through it. We're all figuring it out together.
Right. Right. So it's going to be a level playing field to an extent. Now, I will like to point out that there's, I think, at least some chance that some really big businesses Probably none that are in textiles or apparel,
Mhm.
but there'll be some businesses that are going to get some relief from this from the federal government. They're going to get some exemptions.
Okay.
And I, I
It's
don't know
not,
how that's going to work out, but I'm sure that that's going to happen.
yeah, we'll see. Well, thank you for your time today, Jay. And if people wanted to reach out, how can they find you?
Uh, uh, thesourcingdistrict.com, and I have contact pages on there. Jay at thesourcingdistrict.com, JAY at thesourcingdistrict.com is my email address. And you can always text me or call me at 708-351-7278.
I love that you give your cell phone number out on these.
Why not?
All right. Well, thank you, Jay. And I'm Anna from V.Mora. You can always book a strategy session with me if you're looking to figure out solutions for how to bring your brand domestic or solutions for sourcing, product development, manufacturing.